Good evening and welcome. It's Sunday night, it's 8:30, and you're watching Let's Kill Twitter, the Sorbet edition. This is our fortnightly 30-minute catch-up on the week's tweets, and we kind of slice it in between our main show, details of which will be scrolling above me right now. The aim of all the shows is exactly the same. It's to detox your timeline with the art of conversation. And every time I give that mission statement and I look at Twitter, I just realise what a big ask that is. But fortunately, I don't do it alone. And as ever, my fantastic co-host is here with me, comedian Sajila Kershi. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, Julian. How are you? So, what's the big news for you this week?
Yeah, the big news for me this week is that I've had my first jab. I've had my AstraZeneca on Saturday, and a bit of a stiff arm, but generally feeling okay. Went for a jog, which probably shouldn't have done anyway this morning. Little bit dehydrated, but yeah, I mean, pretty good. Sunshine, I'm happy.
So, you've had the AstraZeneca. I've had the Pfizer.
Mm.
Right here, right now. This is like the Pepsi Cola challenge, like to see which one's better.
Sure.
And we can't. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with mine. We won't know, I guess, until we get our second jabs and see, what happens. Hopefully, we just don't want to catch it. That's how we're
I
gonna.
feel like we should have a virtual arm wrestle with our non-jabbed,
Yeah.
non-jabbed
Let's see.
arms.
Well,
I might
actually, what's the jabbed arm? Because that's, let's see how much strength the jabs leave you with afterwards.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I was told that if I got a reaction to it, it was going to be one. Usually, you get a reaction to one or other, and this one so far seems to be okay. So I'm waiting till the next one in 12 weeks when I'll be getting the fun times reaction to it, maybe.
Hard direction. I had a very achy arm afterwards, I must admit. I was like all achy shoulder. And it's great because I think people all across the land, if they're working remotely, they've probably got that as an excuse like, oh no, I just had the jab. It's a good day to skive off work, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've had the jab, I'm suffering. But I didn't find any different to the flu jab. And I have to say, anyone who's tuning in or listening in, please have the jab. If you haven't, don't worry about it. It's going to save our lives. So that's that. Talking about lives, my gosh, it's been a twit fest, isn't it? A lot this last week, like
A twit
for
fest.
high
You mean out in the outside
you
world or actually on Twitter?
well, both. I mean, I felt like the outside world was okay. I almost on Friday somebody said, we're waiting for some news article to break it. Oh, but they won't say it because of the funeral. And I said, what funeral? Totally forgetting.
Uh,
And then of course, yes, the funeral. Did you watch it?
I didn't. I didn't. I have to say, I think there's been a sort of avalanche of sadness in the last 2 weeks. You think about obviously Prince Philip's passing, although he had obviously very good innings. We discussed that last week, but still, nonetheless, funerals are sad. There were some people who passed last week. The actor Paul Ritter, the journalist Sarah Hughes, and then of course we just had the news of Helen McCrory. So I've just tried to sort of be in the sun and sort of stick my fingers in my ears a little bit, except for that I'm reading Twitter, of course. So, you know.
Well, I mean, the tributes have been coming in obviously on Twitter, and I think that's the great thing about Twitter is that you can pay homage to someone and celebrate their life. Because I mean, yes, as long as of course, it can be toxic, but it can be a nice way to celebrate someone's life. And I have to, as a comedian, I was really holding off, trying to say I'd see the funny moments,
Mm.
and I take that from like funerals that I've been to myself, like my dad's funeral, so I'm finding hilarious moments and thinking, oh no, I better not, because Twitter's gonna just like slate me. Uh, but there were like things like the rift between the two brothers, and you've got their cousin kind of like back off boys, back off, and walking in the middle of them. There's so many moments as a comedian. I'm sure that other comedians, and I thought, I wonder if so and so looking at other comedians to see if they're oh no, they're holding off as well. So I thought that was quite interesting that everybody sort of had a right. No, we're not gonna. It's not like the royal weddings. We can't just have a little kind of and so the sense of humour about. But then I think that's also reflective of we've had a year of tragedies, just across the
Mm.
world in terms of like
Well,
COVID.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
but there was that really, really kind of sad moment with the Queen sitting on her own. In I don't know if you saw those
Yeah, I've
photos
seen
of
all those
yeah.
photos. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I mean, and it was a kind of like I felt damned if they do, damned if they don't. If she had her family sitting next to her, everybody's oh look, it's all right for them, not one rule for them and one rule for us. And now she wasn't sitting on the one doing the social distancing stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, that's so cruel! It's so awful." Some of the haters came out with, "Oh, what about these? Like showing photos of Muslim funerals or stuff that they thought, oh, yeah, it's all right." There was still sort of room for hatred. Let's put it this way, in a moment where
Well,
we should have been, a bit mindful.
Well, you chose some really interesting tweets actually, and actually, as you talking, the tweet from Femi, who many people know as the sort of ardent anti-Brexit campaigner, and I see very regularly on the Jeremy Vine show. Got to name check Jeremy Vine, but there's a good tweet here from Femi, and do you want to just sort of read it out and then just sort of say
Yeah.
what you?
So what's sad is that this would have been a conversation. What's sad is this would have been a conversation. What if William and Charles self-isolate and get a test so they can hold the Queen's hand during the funeral? Nah, we can't because it sends out the wrong message. So what? We have to leave her by herself because the cameras are rolling, and that's exactly sort of what we're saying. It's just I did really feel for her because she had her head right bent down,
Mm.
and I thought she must, this is her life partner for. I've never even had a relationship longer than 72 days, let alone 72 years. It's just like, how awful she must feel. And I do worry now about her health because obviously you hear about these stories where elderly partners, one goes and the other one just doesn't seem to have a. Well, he's the only person her go-to human,
Yeah.
you know, as the Crown has obviously informed me, because I get all my information about them through
It
the
don't. Yeah.
Crown.
Well, likewise. Yeah.
Back in the day, it was Spitting Image. But yeah, so I did really feel for her. I'd have to say. And the other poignant moment was the card on the. I don't know if I got a tweet
Yeah.
on that.
I can't remember
The
if you had
card
it.
on the on the
Oh, this
coffin, or
Omid's
the letter. Yeah,
Jalili's tweet about the Queen sitting on her own, sat
on the.
alone, socially distanced. At her husband's funeral going to be an enduring image. When she said, age 21 in April 1947, that she was going to serve her country, she meant every word of it. I mean, I've read stuff online today. I didn't actually see it on Twitter. I'm sure it's there somewhere, but certainly on Facebook about the kind of planning behind the PR planning behind that kind of shot. But I don't know. Maybe that's an article that I'd want to read in a week's time or a month's time and all the rest of it. Not now. You're not going to do anything for your cause by instant pontification. Whoever wrote that, I can't remember who wrote it, but I have I've scrolled and I've seen stuff like that.
Well, I mean, it's also, I think the funeral represents personal griefs for people across the UK as well. In the part that we've all had personal tragedies, perhaps. So it's been a time of reflection for everyone, not just about a royal. And I've blurred out again.
Cool.
Yeah, I've blurred out. Obviously, the I don't know. Twitter thinks I'm doing something rude, so
Yeah,
they've just
something like that.
or
I'm just
or
checking that we didn't have
need
one
not
on.
to be identified on social media.
That is
Um,
that's a bit weird. We will get to we'll have a tech powwow after this, Sajiva.
yeah.
Yeah, can't see a tweet there with the note, but I mean, before the funeral, it's interesting what you say about what comedians were doing because before the funeral, I think it was the Express or certainly most of the papers probably had the formation in which the princes and the royal family were going to follow the coffin, and it looks like a bit like a kind of football five-a-side sort of game or a kind of a bit like the scene from Reservoir Dogs where Little Green Bag would be playing and all the rest of it. So there was still there was sort of still some semi-tasteful moments I think to be had, but yeah, I mean it's left us with this sort of an enduring image which is all across the media, social media and mainstream media. Now let's say you had
Before we go on, I have to say there was that moment. I think the minute silence. Why did they decide to do it halfway down the steps? Those poor pallbearers. They're literally holding the coffin and having to be still, like halfway up the stairs. It's
yeah.
like just my someone taking a piano up a. It was like, why there? Was that significant? Is that, I don't know if that was meant to mean anything, and I'm just being really ignorant. But it struck me as a very strange place just to stop. To have that silent moment. Did you see that by any
No,
chance?
I really have been behind the curve on this one. I
So
mean,
they just went halfway up the stairs, quite big sort of stairs, and then just like kind of, sort of like stood still with and I was thinking they're so great, those guys. I mean, big kudos to them for carrying it and doing it such a great job without shaking or,
yeah, yeah.
no. Yeah, I mean that's a very stressy job to have on a day like that when the world's watching.
I know. I mean, I do have a kind of issue with the. Well, do I have an issue? But I do wonder about, grief. I suppose is something that is best shared. This is the only occasion that we've seen the royal family sort of together since Harry and Meghan's wedding, really, on a televised way, and it's a tricky one, really, in terms of how. When people share their stories of grief on social media, but particularly on Facebook, there's usually quite detailed stories, and it's it's your choice to do that, I suppose, and I think there must be a cathartic element to it. But when I see someone has died, on Twitter, it takes a sort of while. So that's something that I can't process at social media speed. I'm happy to process a lot of other stories at great speed, but
Yeah.
obviously not the sort of the passing of someone. Obviously, with Prince Philip and the funeral, we'd had a week to get used to the idea. This wasn't like in that respect. So while you're trying not to be a ghost, I don't know what's going on with her. You've got exactly the same webcam as me, but I'm not sure what's going on. We will have to
You
definitely.
see me, I'm just blurry on my
Yeah, you're
screen.
you're just a very ethereal, essentially.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
so I'm wondering now. You picked up quite a lot of tweets to sort of on the breaking story, I suppose we'd have to say, which is Hugh Grant being spotted in a coffee shop in Frome in Somerset. I mean, the story behind this is that the actual story that appeared on the BBC Online is a lifestyle piece, really, about Somerset and why a lot of celebs are moving there. But the hook into it was um, Hugh Grant being spotted in a bakery in Frome, which is not what you'd necessarily expect. I mean, for some people, that really would have confirmed their kind of anti-BBC sort of bias. In fact, actually, let's take Mikey Welsh's tweet first, really, which is UK media looks at Tories pocketing millions of taxpayers' money. Breaking: Hugh Grant goes to bakers. I mean, in fairness, it's not that we haven't heard quite a lot about David Cameron and his shenanigans, his Greensill shenanigans, but it did it did feel a bit out of place, didn't it?
yeah, it was like, okay, that's a real curveball. That I mean, I think if it's in the papers, we think it's more manipulated, though maybe we are being manipulated on social media. But just because I just looked straight for like what's trending, I was like Hugh Grant. Oh my god! And the first thing, of course, you do is like if someone's trending, someone famous, you think, oh my god, something bad's happened. And then it was like, oh, he's just went, I don't know, to get some pies or some cakes or something. Why is this trending? And who is the original person that got this trending? That was my first initial thought. And why is it a Twitterati conspiracy that we're going to take everything else off the table that's been on this week, funeral, the sleep, Parliament
Well,
sleep, and we're
yeah.
going to just put this out, that's what I was trying to think. Why is this trending? And it happens quite often. It's not just today. We often see these weird. As you remember Kate Bush, but that was because there was a documentary about her. But this guy's just gone.
This
I mean, it's
was an
not like
actual story rather than loads of people saying, "Why is Hugh Grant trending?" Thankfully, because there is
yeah,
quite a lot of the mentions of some of those stories. It's essentially people asking, "Why is so
he's
and so
trending
trending?"
more now than he did when he was caught with a prostitute.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is,
I mean, but not we had because
he had quite a high profile in the 2019 election because he was sort of
oh
campaigning,
yeah,
him and sort of Steve Coogan in particular, sort of going around the country, extolling people to either vote Labour or Lib Dem, depending on where that was tactically, the thing. But it goes to show that celebrities don't necessarily cut the ice, maybe. But I mean, it did start. I mean, I actually kind of wish that it started a. Well, I said I was hoping that celebs in stores or pop stars in petrol stations was going to sort of trend because, well, Mousse Alain, who's a fantastic tweeter, tweeted that he once saw Bez buying petrol in the Holloway Road, which all I can just picture is Bez doing his trademark backwards and forwards dance and thinking that's dangerous with petrol. It's got to be said. But it did immediately put me in mind of being in a BP garage in London in the shop, and it was quite late at night, and Boy George was behind me, and I was trying to put a plastic bottle in a plastic bag. Obviously, I would never double plastic now, people. And I
No,
literally
definitely.
couldn't. I think I was a little bit worse for wear, and I could literally not put this bottle of water in a bag. And I heard this very sort of throaty chuckle from behind me, and it was the man himself, Boy George. Blessed.
In full makeup, was he a little,
Well, do you remember he had that sort of period where he was his neck was always made up, and I'm sure it was during that. I can't remember. I think that was a um, I can't remember if that was a sort of. I don't think that was a health thing. I can't remember, but I know that he had that style and actually sort of fitted quite well with a throaty laugh actually. But and Shappy, oh yeah, Shappy Sandy. My son once saw Hugh Grant in a coffee shop in Hammersmith. It didn't make the news though. Sophie Illett at this Frome bakery had the nous to take the picture and inform the BBC immediately. An example to us all.
It's hilarious, yeah.
I mean, there may be that they should like a where's Huey, a kind of where's Wally, but a where's
Yeah,
Huey.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
And bless him, the photo's not flattering of him either. It's like, I mean, he must be like, oh God, I just popped down to get, a cake, and someone's just grabbed this horrible photo of me and don't not looking my best. Um, but hey, we're all in that position now during this past year. I've seen people just go into their local petrol station in their dressing gowns and slippers. So,
Yeah, that's true. I think lockdown was quite. Well, I mean, you can buy suits now that are kind of suits slash pajama outfits, can't you?
I'll call it loungewear.
Yeah, the loungewear. Our standards have just fallen terribly. What can I
I
say?
know, I know. So I mean, the people just they don't give a damn about that, and I'm hoping that we can keep that up, and when we go back to normal and people are commuting in in loungewear slash pajama type attire, I'd quite like to see fashion disappear, as it were. The whole desire to have the latest this, that, and the other. I think that'd be quite. I
Wow,
mean,
well, that's a bold vision. That's-
it's like, yeah, I'm not, yeah, I'm so over it, so over fashion. But I suppose I can afford to say that at my age. We are young.
Oh, you're back. You're back. You're no
Oh
longer
my
blind.
God, all I had to do was
What
flick
is?
my hair. That was it. I did it
It's
with
very
hair.
odd, isn't it? We'll have to look at the setting. It could be a Zoom. It could be a Zoom setting actually, Sajila. We want.
Or it's just doesn't like certain things I say. Look, royal family, back off, bitch. Shh, don't say anything. Yeah, Hugh Grant, shh, leave him alone. Yeah, it could be a Twitter conspiracy. But yeah, so what have you found this week then for
Well, do you know,
tweets?
I'm glad you asked me that because, good, because I nearly forgot. I nearly forgot what on earth I'd found. So, Edinburgh Festival. So, the International Festival announced, I think it was early last week, that it was going to go ahead, and you had pictures of this big sort of marquee construction and the ways that they were going to sort of put stuff on. So, not far behind, sort of almost predictably, just like a day later, the Fringe announced that it was open for registration. Now, in terms of obviously we have comedians on as guests all the time, and I'm sure there are people watching who know a lot about comedy. But for anyone that isn't aware, Edinburgh is a very much almost all year round in terms of how you have to organise for it, and certainly when you're previewing your shows, you could be starting in March or even earlier in some cases to preview shows. So to ask, well, expect comedians to go up to Edinburgh this year with a new show is hopeful, and obviously to expect them to do that with the year that we've just had, even more sort of hopeful. In fact, let me go to Tin and Duyeb, who we've had on the show first, because he sort of hit the nail on the head on the financial aspect of it by saying, excited to see Ed Fringe is happening this year. Can't think of anything more helpful after a year of no earnings than losing thousands of pounds shouting at the exact same jokes as everyone else about Zoom calls in a damp cellar. So I stuck out a little poll, an LKT poll about whether people would be going. Didn't get many votes, but the overwhelming majority of people said they would not be going. Tom Mayhew also did that. Now he's got considerably more votes. Actually, I won't say how many ours got. It was, it was a
Yeah,
representational sample. He's done well. He's got 113 votes so far. It's not bad. And there's a few days left to vote on it by the looks of it. So comedians, who comedians who usually do the Edinburgh Fringe, what is your plan for 2021? So definitely going in at 5%. Hopefully waiting to see a very hopeful 21%. I was almost surprised by that. Probably not at 30%, and definitely not pretty large chunk at 45%. So that probably
No, definitely not. And I know we both discussed about possibly going. I am not setting foot in a busy city after a major pandemic when we're probably likely to face new variants. You know, why? Yeah, and I agree with Tin, and like, you know, in a really harsh year, it's just not feasible. Who's going to be there? Who's going to go? Because everybody's obviously in the same position, aren't they, with money and stuff, like even punters.
Yeah, I mean, it's a chance. It's potentially a chance to get creative, and this is where we can jump straight to Owen's tweet. Let's have a look. Owen from gosh, which company is he? Burke's Nest. If I can find his tweet, the usual faff. Oh, I think it's near Tiernan's actually. I hope because he had a really good idea. Um, oh, here we go. Here
Who's
we
it?
go.
A comedian?
No, hang on. I think I don't know if I've got it or not. I hope I have got it. Um, I may not have got it, but basically what he was suggesting was there's another brilliant thread actually about comedians there, which I'll get to, which is slightly different. But what he was suggesting is that some of the main venues should be having like basically a it's a work in progress festival is essentially what he
Mhm.
was suggesting.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting idea, but I don't know whether the bigger venues would be, up for that really.
Oh, well, you say that, but I mean, every year we do have like big names who go to Edinburgh, and this has been one of the sort of controversial things there, is that big names, TV names, charge £15 a ticket to do effectively new material in Edinburgh. So I personally don't have a problem with that, but that has been something that's kind of frowned upon by a lot of punters, but then they also want to see their famous star. So Leicester Festival has always, for me, been the best work in progress festival, and it's really well run. And so I wouldn't mind seeing a model like that in Edinburgh. And then perhaps what you get is that every comedian would be trying to tour their show. I mean, I'm trying to refit my tour, so I don't see. I don't, because it all depends on whether the circuit comes back, of whether this is Edinburgh. I don't see the value of it this year. I don't know about you, Julian. I don't, as from another side, from another angle. To me,
I
as a
think people
performer,
will
the value.
go because they'll realise that things have sort of thinned out slightly. I mean, last year you had the fun story of Nathan Cassidy going up on his own and playing a gig in the courtyard of the Three Sisters, and national press went up to actually cover that. Um, people will go. I think with thinking, well, there's going to be some interest. It's August. The newspapers are going to absolutely want to fill some space to some extent, and you know there is a window of opportunity potentially there. I don't know how big the online content is going to be. Obviously, we'd very much like to do the online side of things,
Yeah.
but it could be attractive for some people. Now, to Owen's tweet, Owen from Berkshire, I found his tweet now to do it justice. The only way the Fringe should happen is a work in progress festival where acts go up for 4 to 5 days maximum and play the permanent rooms like the Monkey Barrel, the Stand. No press, no industry, definitely no Ed Fringe registration fees. A chance to get back up on stage and perform for a few nights in a row. So, some venues may well do something like that. I'm not sure whether the big four necessarily would.
You know what? I don't get why. What? See, for me, no press, no industry. Um, it's it's still quite an expensive thing
Mm.
to do without. Because I mean, surely we go there because we want the reviews and the press and stuff. And maybe, but I've got a bit jaded because I think after you've had your, I guess, body work judged, and you've got all your, kind of reviews, good reviews and stars and whatever.
Mm.
It's not such a, but that is mainly one of the reasons why people go up there is to get. I never understood when acts say they don't want to be reviewed because, you have to at some point have your work valued. And I guess going forward, we do need to hone in our art again.
Mm.
So I can understand that's the reason why you go, but it'd have to be more an incentive just to be even Leicester Festival, they do have like reviews, even though it's work in progress.
Well, Bruce Dessau did sort of wade in as well, and I mean, and then Owen sort of responded saying, "Look, I wouldn't totally ban press, but I don't think he would expect. I guess he wasn't expecting the whole, a whole load of press to turn up. But given what happened last year with Nathan Cassidy's one-off show, I reckon they probably would. So I guess it is literally the whole Edinburgh topic is a work in progress, really. So look, I'm hopefully I want to get time to, I think there's to do a lovely thread from an American comedian called Chris Garcia, who I don't know an awful lot about, but he started a really nice thread just very simply by asking, what's the best live stand-up comedy moment you've ever witnessed? Got a lot of response to this, as you might imagine. A lot of mostly American comedians, but not all of them. Not loads of people I'd necessarily seen before. But I just picked out some of the nice. I mean, this is a bit of a classic, really, for anyone that knows Paul Foote. So Matt Hull picks out Paul Foote at the Wheat Sheaf. A couple of other comedians were on before. Holly Walsh was the compere, and the lad up front wouldn't shut up. He pipes up again at the start of Paul's set, so Paul sticks his finger in his mouth and keeps it in there for most of his set, and that's at least 15 minutes. I mean, that's such non-COVID. There's something that sort of slightly sends the shivers down your spine, but
that's brilliant.
It's brilliant. And then we've got, is this, yes, Stuart Lee, so we've got another Brit here. So, what comes to mind watching Stuart Lee work theatre in Perth, Australia, 2005, I think. A guy didn't like his pacing and yelled, "Get to it, mate!" And Stuart explained how, because of that guy, he was going to slow down, which I would think was a bit of a hostage situation. I'm not sure who I feel more sorry for there, to be honest. But that is a good...
What about you then? What's been? You've seen so much live comedy, in your previous roles. What's been? I'm trying to think of mine. I honestly can't think of anything at the moment. But what's been yours?
Well, I'll just leave those two on screen, by the way. So, Bobcat Goldthwait and Mike Birbiglia that people can read. They're very nice as well. But I did reply to this myself, and I went to see. So I was up in Edinburgh in 1991. Oh, I can't remember now. But Bill Hicks was there at in the tent on the Meadows. I think it was called the Dream Tent or something. I can't remember what it was called. And I was at the same university as we all went as a group. I was at the same university as Dave Lamb, the voice of Come Dine With Me, Gordon Southern, the stand-up, Ben Ward, the comedy writer, and a couple of other, there's a guy called Mike Carell who was there with us that night. And it was just, it was just amazing, really. And he ended up chatting to us because we were quite near the front. This is the sort of thing we did. And he just sort of was asking us about, what do we do? And then I told him my degree because I was boring. I was the only one with a really boring answer. And he was just sort of riffing off that, really. But it's just, it was such a...
It's a really special
moment.
Memory. Yeah, that's a really special memory. I think that's... having seen all the videos and stuff, you just think, oh my God, what joy must have been to be one of his audience.
And be that close, yeah. What about you? I mean, that's a lot of gigs. There's a lot of people that have sort of you've seen as an MC, and you're at the Cottage.
Oh gosh, I cannot think of any of them right now. I can't think of anything. My mind's gone blank. This is what's happened. The whole last year has wiped all my memories out. I can't think of anything. Obviously, I mean,
the Immigrant Diary shows have been fantastic, and it's Stephen. Gosh, he's been in everything. American actor.
Oh yeah, Stephen Tobolowsky, right. Who was in Memento as the man who, had a, talking about memory. He couldn't remember things, and Memento is obviously about the man who relives the same life every day because he can't remember when he wakes up. He forgets, and so he came to do Immigrant Diaries. That was quite amazing. About having an immigrant heritage. I think somehow I missed the memo, and he started talking about. He was just telling a story about the zoo. Do you remember this?
Yeah, that's right. It was a little off.
And about the pandas, and I'm like, okay. And everybody's just so starstruck in the audience. They didn't actually give a shit. They just wanted to hear him. And then me having to somehow spin that into, well, yes, an immigrant is like being in the zoo sometimes. So thank you, Stephen Tobolowsky, and then and kind of as well. But he was very generous and very kind. Also, I would say, whose line is it anyway? What's his name? He was in Edinburgh, the last Edinburgh I did. He was a guest, and he
Clive
was
Anderson.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Clive Anderson or
no, not Clive.
Greg Proops.
No.
It's become a fun guessing game now.
This is like brain mush.
Yeah.
But anyway, he. It was a joy to be with him. Someone who's so amazing that I can't remember his name right now. And at the end saying, "Oh, I suppose I should do a bit of networking. Can I have your card? Perhaps we can work in the future together." And I'm like, "Oh my God! Like, you know, you're my hero." And how I just was just touched by that.
Oh, that's going to drive me. It wasn't.
It's fantastic. And of course, being in one of the biggest shows myself when I first started, newbie with Brendan Burns, that was quite being in an audience, but being part of it, that was really freaky. And of course, we're talking about all sort of, it's all based around offence and racism, and it was a weird thing to be playing a character, but also be very aware of how people would react and knowing that because you have lived that. So it was a weird thing, and every show was different. People wanting to come up and smash my face in. Literally, I got some Glaswegian guy came up and said, "Shut your mouth," and it was like, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm not getting paid enough for doing this. I'm risking my life." But yeah, so maybe that was probably, but I don't know. There's been so many moments, and I think that's, although I can't remember anything right now.
I've put you on the spot.
That's what I think we'd love to when we go back. Incognito.
Gosh,
oh my God, legend. Yeah, Incognito. Just there's some people like you've seen Bill Hicks, and these are the sort of special moments that you have that you're not ever gonna get from TV comedy. You only get in those live rooms.
Yeah,
and it stays with you when you've seen something so amazing. Like Incognito could just lose them. They hated him, and then he'd win them back. It was just such amazing technique. So those kind of big legends, which we don't see on TV, by the way, kids, because they're just not made for TV, but they are for live gigs. Keep supporting live comedy, guys. Keep supporting it.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, what is it? May the 17th, when things sort of open back up, it's going to be very important to get back on the road. Definitely. Well, check out Chris Garcia's thread. There's a lot of lovely memories that people have got on there. I mean, we've come to an end of our show, which I think we should customarily find something amusing, like a little video.
Like, what was that meme there with the woman?
Well, that was back to that's back to the funeral.
Really?
I'm torn between
What's this? Why is he cutting?
Oh, right. Okay, here we go. It's if you haven't seen this, Julia, remember for a tweet. I'm not sure if this is.
That poor sheep. Is it a sheep?
Yeah.
It's just been given birth to all over again. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Oh, what a dimwit.
Obviously, as a kind of sort of metaphor for sort of politics or anything else, or Brexit, or all sorts of things. It's been widely enjoyed.
I have missed that. That is fantastic.
Oh dear.
That's just perfect.
It's a nice note to end on. So all of our tweets, as ever, are in our the ones that we discussed tonight, and actually in previous shows are under the likes tab. Please do follow us at LKT Zoom, and next week we will have comedians Dana Alexander and Ian Stone joining us. That will be at 8 o'clock. We run for 75 minutes. We pick our favourite tweets, they pick our favourite tweets. We have a big almighty sort of bum fight / conversation. It's a whole lot of fun. If you go to the Eventbrite site, you can join us in the Zoom room, so you can share your own tweets, ask questions, make comments, or you can watch from the stream. All the details are on our website, and all the details should be scrolling above me as we speak. And I think that might be it. I'm just going to put my
Instagram. Don't forget, we're also now on Instagram.
on the Instagram. Well, I'm gonna like just yeah, you're right. We've only just signed up to Instagram last week.
So come follow
So
us.
come follow us on
Really fun.
Instagram. You know, we're there on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. Crucially, please do follow us on Twitter. You know, I want as many of you there as possible. We also have partnered in the way that people partner with these things with Buy Me a Coffee. They are our sort of donation outlet of choice. So if you go to their website and look up Let's Kill Twitter, you'll find us easily enough. But I will just do the high tech bit and move so you can see.
Buy
Oh no,
me
I
a
can't. I'm
coffee.
coming through this. There we go. Buymeacoffee.com / Let's Kill Twitter. So there we go, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. So Gina, what are you looking forward to the week ahead?
Oh, right. So I'm looking forward to some positive stuff on Twitter. You know, some good news. Maybe that would be nice. I want to see where Hugh Grant is going next. I'd like to know if he goes anywhere else. I hope the world is
Hashtag where's
vigilant.
Huey? Yeah.
Yeah, where's Huey? Where's Huey? Let's get that trending. In fact, let's do get that.
Oh, well, I'll give
Because
it a
anyone's
whirl. Yeah.
because the poor guy will never leave his house. Hugh Grant, if you're somehow listening in, you know, please give us a bit of entertainment. The world needs like entertainment. Go and do crazy things. You know, moon in the Tesco station or do something. So we've got where's Huey sightings. Yeah, sightings.
Yeah, well, you want to come and then come on the show because I'm sure you'd love nothing more
Yes,
to talk about Twitter. This is what this is what we're here for. You know, if you need to kind of get Twitter off your chest, which is pretty much all of us, that is what we're here
exactly.
for.
And it's not like you've made any films recently, Hugh. I'm not saying. I mean, you've done a great stuff, but you
But
know,
has
you need.
anyone? No, has anyone?
Has anyone? Well, actually, they have been making films, but I
I
don't know how
suppose they
good they
have.
will be. But there has been film because that's one thing that was allowed to carry on, wasn't it? Because my son's an actor, so he was still. I mean, okay, admittedly, he was doing small films, but you know, I think all the soaps they're not good though. Lockdown filming stuff that I've seen on telly. That's what I've had to resort to going to Spanish
Oh, that's right.
dramas.
You love the Spanish dramas, and I never lift my head out of my sort of box sets as well. I mean, you know, Sopranos is on freeze as we speak. I don't know what I'm going to do when I finish watching it again. Anyway, right, guys, it's been a pleasure to have half an hour with you of your time. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've seen a couple of tweets that you haven't seen before and that we'll investigate further. And we'd love to see you next week at our full show. That's Sunday, the 25th of April, 8 p.m. with comedians Dana Alexander and Ian Stone. Check us out in Eventbrite and on our website for all the details. Many thanks. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.